The older male doctor's voice was warm, clear, and calm, with a deep timbre and a deliberately slow, thoughtful pace. If you're over 60 and still begging for respect from people who will never give it to you, you're wasting what little time you have left. This video will either change your life or you will turn off this video. I'm Vernon. Today, I'll share with you 3 rules that separate women who thrive from those who merely survive. The smartest women I know didn't get wise by learning more. They got wise by finally listening to themselves first. They stopped asking, "How can I make them understand?" and started asking, "Why do I need them to?" These aren't just principles. They're the quiet revolution that happens when you realize your peace is more valuable than their approval. If you're ready to stop chasing approval and start living on your own terms, please like and subscribe. This journey we're on together, it's about wisdom, not just age. The first rule? It challenges everything you've been taught about being a good woman. Are you ready? Let's begin.
1. Never explain your peace to people who profit from your chaos. This is elderly wisdom at its finest. Understanding that after 60, the most important lesson isn't about accumulating more relationships, but about protecting the quality of the ones that truly matter. I remember the exact moment I witnessed this rule in action, though it took me years to understand its power in building genuine self-respect and inner strength. I was having coffee with Sarah, a remarkable smart woman in her early 60s, when her phone buzzed for the 3rd time that afternoon. Each time, her shoulders tensed, her jaw tightened, and I watched a woman who had been radiating emotional stillness suddenly become a bundle of anxiety. "It's my sister-in-law," she said, staring at the screen. "She has this gift for creating storms, dramatic interpretations of innocent comments, manufactured crises that somehow always require my immediate attention." This is where personal growth becomes critical. Sarah had been about to answer, to once again explain why she couldn't drop everything to manage someone else's emotional emergency. But something stopped her, a moment of self-awareness that would change everything. Maybe it was seeing her own exhaustion reflected in the coffee shop window, or perhaps it was finally asking herself a question that would unlock her own power. Who benefits when I'm constantly putting out fires? The answer was uncomfortable. Her sister-in-law got attention, validation, and someone to carry her emotional load. What did Sarah get? Stress, resentment, and the slow erosion of her own peace. This wasn't women empowerment, this was emotional servitude.
That's when I realized something profound about self-mastery. Some people don't want you to be calm. They want you to be available. They thrive on chaos because it keeps you engaged, keeps you solving, keeps you from focusing on your own life and learning to understand your value. Sarah learned to recognize the difference between someone who genuinely needs support and someone who needs you to stay destabilized to feel powerful. This is confidence building in its truest form, not needing external validation to make healthy choices. She stopped explaining her boundaries. She stopped justifying her need for peace. When the next dramatic call came, she simply said, "I'm not available for this conversation right now." And she meant it.
The guilt was overwhelming at first. After all, women are taught that they should never break, always show up, always help, always sacrifice their own emotional clarity for others. But here's the truth about emotional clarity. It's not selfish, it's essential. Your attention is part of your attention economy, and you have every right to choose where you invest it. This is what it means to celebrate yourself, protecting your peace as fiercely as you'd protect anything else you value. Some people don't want clarity. They want access. The smartest thing you can do is close the door quietly. Save this video as a reminder for the days when the guilt creeps in and you're tempted to explain yourself again. Revisit it anytime you need to remember your peace doesn't require permission. It requires protection. But chaos isn't the only thing that drains us. There's another, quieter force that wears us down, confusing emotional labor with emotional intimacy.
2. Don't confuse emotional labor with emotional intimacy. Does your role in relationships feel more like a caregiver than an equal partner? Emotional labor is the invisible work of managing feelings, yours and everyone else's. It's remembering birthdays, smoothing over conflicts, checking in when someone's upset, anticipating needs before they're expressed. For decades, many women think this is love. They believe this is how you build deep connections and demonstrate self-respect. But emotional intimacy? That's something entirely different. It's the mutual exchange of authentic feelings, the safety to be seen in your vulnerability, the trust that comes from knowing someone chooses to be with you, not because you make their life easier, but because you make their life richer. Through my observations and research, I've seen women spend years confusing the two. They become the ones who call after arguments, who remember everyone's problems, who somehow become the emotional thermostat for every relationship they enter. They think this builds inner strength and makes them indispensable. What it actually creates is exhaustion and a loss of self-awareness. The pattern is clear. Many women give emotional labor, but don't receive emotional intimacy. They care for others' feelings while their own remain largely unknown, unasked about, unacknowledged. They function as emotional service providers, not emotional equals. This isn't women empowerment, it's emotional servitude.
Research shows that women, especially as we age, often carry a disproportionate amount of emotional labor in relationships. We become the keepers of everyone's feelings, the fixers of everyone's problems. But as Brené Brown reminds us, true intimacy requires vulnerability from both sides, not just caretaking from one. The shift happens when women start asking themselves, am I being intimate or am I being useful? They begin to notice the difference between someone who wants to know how they're feeling and someone who wants them to manage how they're feeling. This is where emotional stillness and self-mastery become essential. Smart women know caring doesn't mean carrying. Understanding this difference is what allows them to celebrate yourself and build confidence in authentic relationships. So now that we've untangled emotional labor from real intimacy, let's talk about the next piece of inner wisdom. Where your presence goes, your power follows.
3. Choose your presence like you choose your wardrobe, intentionally. There's a psychological principle called attention residue. The idea that when we give our attention to something, part of it stays there, even after we've moved on. This means that every person, every conversation, every environment we engage with literally leaves a trace on our mental and emotional state. This is crucial elderly wisdom for personal growth after 60. I learned this through studying women during particularly difficult periods when they were trying to be everything to everyone. Margaret, a 63-year-old client, was showing up to every social gathering, every coffee date, every family obligation, not because she wanted to, but because she thought she should. She was treating her presence like it was unlimited, like it didn't matter where she invested it. This isn't time management, it's time waste. The realization came during what should have been a peaceful Sunday afternoon. Margaret had just returned from a lunch with an old friend, someone who spent 2 hours complaining about her life but showed no interest in Margaret's. She felt drained, irritated, and strangely empty. As she sat in her living room trying to shake off the residual negativity, she had a moment of self-awareness. She wouldn't wear the same outfit to a wedding and a funeral. She wouldn't dress for a job interview the way she'd dress for gardening. So why was she bringing the same unfocused, unintentional presence to every interaction? That's when Margaret started what I call social decluttering, a key principle of self-mastery. Just as she had learned to curate her physical space, she began curating her social life. She asked herself, does this person energize me or drain me? Does this environment nurture my growth or diminish it? Am I showing up here because I want to or because I feel obligated?
The process wasn't about becoming antisocial or cutting people off. It was about becoming selective. She started choosing her presence like she chose her wardrobe, intentionally, considering the occasion, the weather, how she wanted to feel. This is women empowerment in action, recognizing your own power to choose. Some friendships naturally faded. Some family dynamics shifted. Some invitations were politely declined. And in that space, in that carefully chosen presence, she found something she hadn't realized she'd lost: herself. This is what it means to understand your value and celebrate yourself. Margaret learned that energetic discernment isn't about being exclusive. It's about being intentional. It's about recognizing that your presence is a gift, not a given right. It's about understanding where you choose shapes who you become. This inner strength and confidence building comes from emotional stillness. Was there a moment you realized your presence was being taken for granted and finally chose peace instead? Share that moment below. Another woman might need the courage your story offers. After 60, you don't owe everyone your presence. You owe yourself the peace that comes from choosing where you stand.
So today, we've explored together 3 important rules. Never explaining your peace to people who profit from your chaos. Not confusing emotional labor with emotional intimacy. And choosing your presence intentionally. These aren't just strategies. They are actions that demonstrate self-respect. Becoming a smart woman doesn't mean knowing everything, but finally listening to yourself first. You must understand that your value doesn't come from what you do for others, but from who you are when you're alone with your own thoughts. These rules aren't about becoming rigid or cold. They help develop the kind of inner strength that comes from knowing your worth, setting boundaries, and choosing your battles wisely. This is the emotional stillness and self-mastery that women after 60 need to have. Try one rule this week, not to impress anyone, not to prove anything, just to come back to yourself. Do you have a story or insight that helped you reclaim your emotional clarity? Feel free to share it in the comments. Your experience might be exactly what another woman needs to hear today. Like and subscribe if you're no longer chasing approval. You're living your own way, wisely. This is Vernon, and I'll see you in the next episode of Women After 60, Relationships and Renewal.